All right, friends. Boss, let's dive right in and talk about Bigbear.ai. This company has had quite a roller coaster, but the interesting thing is, it's still standing tall. Despite the chaos, despite the barrage of negative headlines, and despite a disappointing earnings report recently, Big Bear actually held up surprisingly well. We closed the day right around the $5.50 level, which might not sound earth-shattering at first, but when you factor in everything that's been going on, it's actually a pretty solid performance. Think about it. Most retail investors don't even remember the quarterly report at this point. It came out just a couple weeks ago, and honestly, it wasn't pretty. If we're being brutally honest here, the numbers were disappointing, flat out bad. The kind of report that usually drags a stock way down and keeps it there for a while. But what happened next was classic Big Bear. Right after those results, they announced a fresh new partnership. The market reacted instantly, and the stock shot back up into the low $6 range. That back-and-forth action, falling on weak earnings but bouncing on positive deal news, has kept the stock locked into this tug-of-war zone between $5.50 and just above $6. And let me tell you, for where Big Bear is right now, that's not bad at all. In fact, it's actually healthy, because what it shows is that the market hasn't written this company off. In fact, when you search Big Bear in financial news articles today, you don't see doom and gloom. You see cautiously optimistic coverage. Analysts, traders, and even long-term holders are starting to sing the same tune. This company's survival and growth is tied directly to deals. More contracts, more partnerships, more traction. That's been the thesis since back in November, and nothing has changed. Investors like us aren't asking Big Bear to do the impossible. We just want them to land more partnerships, especially the kind of deal that makes headlines across the industry. Think of it like waiting for a giant scoop of ice cream, dripping, sweet, irresistible. That's what the market wants, a big, juicy, undeniable deal that validates everything this company has been building. And realistically, it's not out of reach. Big Bear is already working closely with the U.S. government and the Department of Defense. Given that relationship, is it really unreasonable to expect more contracts coming down? The pipeline? I don't think so. In fact, I'd argue it's inevitable. Maybe it won't be massive right away, even a smaller scale deal would give the stock some momentum, but the odds of something materializing before the end of the year are pretty strong. Now, step back and look at the bigger picture. The entire market right now is still hanging on multiple macro uncertainties. What's happening with the war in Ukraine? How will global energy dynamics shift? Where does the U.S. stand geopolitically with Russia and other players? Those headlines alone are enough to keep investors nervous. But at the same time, you can't ignore the elephant in the room, the Federal Reserve. The Fed's decisions on interest rates can and will determine where the market heads next. If the Fed announces rate cuts soon, even modest ones, that injects a surge of optimism into the market. Stocks would rally, bond yields would fall, and the appetite for equities would grow. And if they actually go one step further, laying out a timeline for multiple cuts across the year, that would be massive. Even one cut would help, but several? That could completely reshape momentum for the rest of the year. And guess what? Riskier, growth-driven names like Big Bear usually benefit the most in those scenarios. So, in many ways, the market right now is just waiting for direction. And here's the funny part. Despite all the uncertainty, I was actually glad we saw a red day today. Why? Because the market has been on such a hot streak lately. It's been nothing but green sessions, and sometimes you just need a cool down. A red day lets you reset, reposition, and spot opportunities. It creates buying moments that would otherwise vanish. And that's what I want you to think about. Look around the market right now. There are plenty of names that just dipped into attractive zones. For instance, C3.ai. That stock has been surrounded by controversy, drama, and debate over the past few weeks. Some people see the volatility as a red flag. But personally, I look at it and think, drama isn't always bad. Drama creates opportunity. Earlier this year, C3 was trading near $30. But now, with all the movement, you can scoop it up way cheaper. Fundamentally, the company hasn't collapsed. It's still strong, still innovating, still building. The turbulence might actually be a blessing for long-term investors. And then there's Palantir. We saw Palantir dipping into the $15.50 range today. For many people, that's the kind of level where you start asking yourself, should I buy here, even if it dips lower later? For some, the answer is yes, you buy a starter position. You grab your first $20 worth, or maybe just one share. Because at these levels, history tells us buyers are going to step in. Palantir won't sit there forever. And the same is true for Big Bear. Sitting around $5.50, this stock isn't going to stay suppressed for long. It's too alive, too volatile, too tied into real-world contracts and government work. The moment the broader market lifts, Big Bear is right back in the mid-$6 range, maybe higher. So when you put it all together, here's where I stand. Big Bear's story isn't over. It's not even close. If they land another partnership, especially with government agencies or high-profile corporations, this stock has room to run. Add in the potential for Fed rate cuts and a more favorable market climate, and you can see why there's reason for optimism. To wrap it up, I want to leave you with this thought. Opportunities don't always scream at you. Sometimes they whisper. They show up on a red day when everyone else is panicking. They show up in the form of a volatile stock that most people overlook. They show up when you're patient enough to recognize value before the crowd. So whether you're watching Big Bear, Palantir, C3, or other players in the AI and defense space, keep your eyes open. These are the moments where smart decisions are made. And as always, I wish all of you the best of luck out there. Tomorrow is a new day, and with it comes new chances to win. Stay sharp, stay patient, and stay excited because these are truly opportune moments. This is not financial advice.